Yada, when. Asharanam, without being alternatively most or ultimate, nuclear. Mene, apply. Atmatranam, just to save himself. Dvija Atmajaha, the son of a Brahmana. Translation in purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When the son of the Brahmana, Ashwatthama, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, the nuclear weapon. In the ultimate issue only, when there is no alternative, the nuclear weapon called the Brahmastra is applied. The word Vijatmajaha is significant here because Ashwatthama, although the son of Dronacharya, was not exactly a qualified Brahmana. The most intelligent man is called a Brahmana, and it is not a hereditary title. Ashwatthama was also formally called the Brahma Bandhu, or the friend of a Brahmana. Being a friend of a Brahmana does not mean that one is a Brahmana by qualification. A friend or son of a Brahmana, when fully qualified, can be called a Brahmana, not otherwise. Since Ashwatthama's decision is immature, he is purposely called herein the son of a Brahmana. That's the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Grananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Bhaktivedanta Swami Titinamune Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radhara Shivasani Gauravaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So when the son of the Brahmana, Ashwatthama, saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, the nuclear weapon. We see here Ashwatthama continuing to act in ignorance and complicating matters more and more. Right? So, if you all remember the history behind this, Ashwatthama was very upset that Duryodhana was defeated, and he wanted to avenge the death of Duryodhana. And so he said that he's going to kill all the Pandavas, right? But then he didn't want to kill them in the battlefield, face to face. He very slyly, what did he do? Right? He went to their camp, and and he saw 5 people lying over there. He went and beheaded them in their sleep, and thinking that he was killing the Pandavas. But unfortunately, he had killed the sons of the Pandavas, and when this was known, that Ashwatthama had killed, after all they were actually not even full adults, they were just teens. They were killed in their sleep. They got very angry, and Arjuna went behind Ashwatthama. And Ashwatthama was running away, fearing his own life. because he realized the mistake he had done. And then as he was running, you see here that he got tired, the horses got tired, and then he realized that Arjuna is going to come any minute. And so he has no other go, right? He felt threatened. And then he does more foolish things, right? Just because if he's threatened, he says, okay, I'm going to release the Brahmastra. Because his education in using the Brahmastra was not complete. He only knew how to release it, but he did not know how to take it back. And in the mode of ignorance, when a person is bewildered by Maya, they don't think through properly. Right? In this case, he did not consider what are the implications of releasing the Brahmastra and not being able to take it back. So the history goes that he released the Brahmastra, and then what does Arjuna do to retaliation? Anybody remembers? Huh? He releases different astra. Which astra does he release? The Pashupatastra. And so he releases the Pashupatastra, but then the sages and everybody realize the imminent danger of these two. Because one is not Shiva's, but Brahmastra. These are very, very powerful, almost like two powerful nuclear weapons going against each other. And so there was a discussion that, okay, this is going to cause a lot of harm. And so an agreement was reached that they should retract the weapons for the welfare of the society. At this point, Arjuna, obviously, he was qualified and he recalls the Pashupatastra. But unfortunately, Ashwatthama now does not know how to recall. And so the discussion happened that, okay, you can't recall it, you should direct it at somebody. Right? And then he had a choice of whom to direct it. It is said that, he chose to direct it at Uttara, not even Uttara, Uttara's womb. He didn't want to kill Uttara. He wanted to kill the unborn child, who was the only heir of the Pandavas. And she directed it over there, and we all know how Lord Krishna protects Parikshit Maharaj, right, in the womb. I think the important thing to think about here is that how, when one feels threatened, right, we act very irrationally. And we should contemplate this in our own lives. How do we put ourselves in a state of consciousness that we don't feel threatened in this world? Because ultimately, we are a spirit soul. We are eternal, right? Just for a second, think about it. We usually walk around the world with a big burden on our head, right? This is happening in my life, that is happening in my life, this is happening at work, this is happening at home, this is happening with my family, this is happening with my children, this is happening with my parents, relatives, brother, sister, like there's so much we're carrying on our head. This is happening, that is happening, I should do this, I should do that, what should I do? Right? This consumes our consciousness. See, Maya's trick is taking away the only thing that you really have with you. Right? The only thing that you have is your free will and the present moment to exercise your free will. Right? See, Kala has this very uh, bewildering effect on the living entity. The reason the living entity gets bewildered is because, see, Kala is practically absent in the spiritual world. Right? It's absent in the sense that its impact in the spiritual world, Kala is artificially created in the spiritual world. There's nothing like Kala, there's nothing like time. Can you imagine that? It just doesn't exist in the spiritual world. It is artificially created to enhance the pleasure of the Lord's interaction with his devotees. In the spiritual world, everything is Brahman, right? Everything is full of effulgence. And so you have to artificially create darkness. So that, there's a feeling of there is night and day. So that, the Lord's Rasa Leela can happen in the night. The Lord's going with his cowherd boys to the grazing can happen in the day. Right? And there is all this is created to enhance the actual interactions of the Lord and his devotees and the pleasure that comes out of it. And in exact opposite contrast, in the material world, it is actually a place of darkness. We artificially have to create lightness in this world. Right? And if you think about it, Surya is actually an artificial creation to dissipate in parts of the world, to dissipate the effects of the darkness of the world. Right? That is the nature. And so Kala is actually, doesn't exist. And so in this material world, when we are so burdened by everything, for a second we should reflect on our spiritual nature. And the moment you reflect on the spiritual nature, all of that just disappears. It has, obviously, we have to properly contemplate, right? And then pray for the Lord's mercy for some realization. And then it can help, even though we may not be realized, even though we may not understand it completely, but contemplating on our spiritual nature helps us to realize the trivial nature of all these issues that we have in this material world. Right? The reason we have to do that is because otherwise when we feel threatened, we act very irrationally. And we do all kinds of things. And if you think about the impact of this, what Ashwatthama is going to go through. He felt threatened for a moment and he created misfortune for a long period of time in this particular case. Right? Because what happens? He is anyway defeated. Right? And after being defeated, because for his heinous act, he's cursed to live, I think forever or for a particular time period. Right? Just roam around like, he's also considered one of the Chiranjeevis, Ashwatthama. But his Chiranjeeva is not a boon. To live forever, for a long time is not a boon, it's a curse. He said that he had a jewel on his forehead. With the jewel, he had no fear. He had no fear of any weapon, he had no fear of the demigods, he had no fear of anything. He was blessed with that feature. When he did this heinous act, and he actually exacerbated the problem by releasing the Brahmastra and trying to kill Parikshit Maharaj. Just sort of, mistake upon mistake. He was forced to give up taken away the jewel, and he said he was cast off to live for a long time, suffering, to repent for what he had done. Later, he also gets relief from all of this and gets a good situation. But there was a lot of, and all of this because he felt threatened for a second. So we should always understand the implications and think about our actions in these three modes and why it is important for us to be in Shuddha Sattva all the time, right? To have devotional consciousness. when you say Krishna consciousness, it is we have to think of Krishna and be in the consciousness of the Lord, and that's Shuddha Sattva. So, in the material world, when a person is in the mode of ignorance, a tamasic person, when they have power, they are impatient to use that power, right, all the time, for some sense gratification, for some mentally perceived problems, without even understanding the implications of what they're doing. So that's the nature of tamoguna. Most of tamasic actions are very harmful to themselves and to others in the society. That's the nature. Then when a person is in the mode of passion, they're trying to use the power, they're trying to use their situation, they're trying to think of dharma and trying to act for their benefit, their personal benefit, but they want to act for good and personal benefit, and try to obviously stay away from bad effects. So that's the thought process in the mode of passion. But it's usually the 50-50 situation, right? Sometimes you do good, sometimes you do bad, because you're carried away with passion. And in the mode of goodness, you exercise tolerance, right? Even though you put in a provocative situation, you tolerate. Even though somebody says something, you tolerate. You knowing very well that the person is wrong and the person is doing a mistake, you still tolerate. So tolerance is a necessary aspect of the mode of goodness. But a devotee transcends this in Shuddha Sattva. Right? What does the devotee do? What is the consciousness of the devotee? Right? In put in situations. How does the devotee think? How does he pray to the Lord? Typically. Any ideas? What is expected of a devotee?
Because of his own misdeeds.
Sorry?
He thinks that he is suffering because of his own past misdeeds.
Yeah.
The Lord has been actually kind and giving only a token of what he is supposed to have been suffering.
Yeah. So the devotee saying is that he's thinking that his suffering is just a token. He's only suffering for his own past misdeeds. But more importantly, a little bit higher consciousness than that is actually doesn't matter. Oh Lord, it doesn't matter whether you protect me or you don't protect me. Just keep me always in your consciousness, because all these different things are all temporary. Right? We just tolerate, right? But we tolerate thinking of the Lord and say, Lord, whatever you desire, it's okay. We take the tolerance and sattva to the next level. Right? And so that's why the Lord, the devotee does not feel the need to defend themselves. They don't feel the need to defend themselves. We see this amongst devotees. Sometimes when we get caught up in different situations, and then we say, oh, I was very tolerant until he did this mistake. Right? And when this mistake was done, whatever justification we will give, I knew, I was convinced it was wrong, and I defended myself. And I had to sometimes not just defend, you go on the offensive as well. Right? So, we feel that, but in fact, the truth is, it has been said so many places in the Shastras, and the Vaishnava Acharyas have shown us, when we don't defend ourselves, what happens? Huh? Krishna will defend us. Krishna will defend us. Have that faith. Have that innate faith. Right? And that also very impatient. I was actually waiting that Krishna will defend, but when he didn't defend, that's when I defended. I waited 5 minutes, I waited 10 minutes. When the situation didn't get resolved. No. Does Krishna have to defend you in that time, that moment, in that situation? Krishna knows, right? Have that faith. Krishna knows how to defend you. It's always said that, the Lord's actions, are very mysterious. He acts in very mysterious ways. Right? He acts in very unusual ways. You'll see in most of Krishna's pastimes, he'll take the most unusual route to solve a problem. I think we talked about this in a different class. Right? So in our own lives, we should have that faith. The Lord will actually defend us. Right? When all devotees actually start applying this, philosophy in our lives, this world, the community of devotees becomes a spiritual world. Right? Then what will happen? If nobody is defending themselves, the people who are inadvertently, see, it's not that devotees are doing a mistake purposely. Very rarely that happens. But it happens too. We have seen there are situations. There are people who are not evolved enough and they're just beginning a devotional life, and they will act sometimes out of malice, out of ill intention. But in most cases, it is really not intentionally being done. The nature of this Kali Yuga is like that. This is the nature. The Kali Yuga is, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Right? Both quarrel and hypocrisy. So let us actually meditate on that a little bit and understand, what does these two things mean? Because they are a little bit two different things. Do you agree? Quarrel and hypocrisy is two different things. Quarrel is, we all know what quarrel. Everybody wants to quarrel for the silliest of reasons. Sometimes the people quarreling don't know what they're quarreling for. They have no idea what they're quarreling for. And you ask them, do you really care about this topic or this thing, or just they're quarreling for the sake of quarreling? And especially in the materialistic people, when they see others who are being nice, who are being calm and tolerant, they will take that as a sign of weakness. Oh, this person can't defend, let me go on the offensive and pound someone. That is the nature. And this Kali Yuga is so, this thing, and for every simple thing we quarrel. And then hypocrisy. Right? This world is full of hypocrisy. Right? You'll see people are so passionate about saving cats and dogs. Right? They will, you'll see, especially local news. Most of us fortunately don't watch, but suddenly you are forced to watch for a minute. You'll see, there'll always be, in a day there'll be one cat rescue, one dog rescue, and there'll also be a lot of talk about these people are mistreating this animal. There's so much, talk about it, how this particular dog, when this storm happened in New York, and this blistering, the sudden blizzard, there was snow everywhere. New York usually doesn't explain that much of this thing. There are a lot of pictures of dogs. Somebody had tied a dog outside and gone somewhere, They didn't know it's going to be a blizzard like this, and then the dog was shivering in the cold, and the pictures are in the paper. I mean, we're not saying don't protect cats and dogs. They are obviously, we are, as a human being, you're supposed to give protection to all creatures that are to everybody, and especially to children and women and innocent animals. You're supposed to give protection, but not just to cats and dogs, but also to the cattle and the pigs and the chicken and the goats and other things that you eat too. But they also deserve protection. So this hypocrisy. See, it is okay to say that I'm not an evolved person, I'm so fallen that I'm forced to, for the sake of my tongue, I'm, committing this heinous crime. If you think like that, that is okay. But you don't think like that, I'm a very evolved person. I have so much compassion for other living entities, for even animals have compassion, and you show that towards cats and dogs, but don't show it towards other animals, that is hypocrisy. And it is very surprising that most people don't even understand this hypocrisy. It's very difficult to tell people, oh, that's food. That's food. Somebody has to be somebody's food. And you also eat vegetables. That's what they say. Somebody has to be somebody's food, and God gave us his food. That's not like, that's how much Maya bewilders a person in this Kali Yuga. So in this stage of Koran hypocrisy, we have to learn tolerance and go beyond that. Otherwise, we act very, very irrationally. And you can see there are so many instances in the Shastras when people give very solid explanation of why they're acting in the way they're acting. Right? When Jarasandha was attacking Krishna and Mathura, like 17 times with 13 Astavanis, Akshavanis, he was attacking with such a huge army. And then he had a very solid thinking. Krishna is forcing me to attack. I didn't want to, but he did a very wrong thing by killing his own uncle, Kamsa. Right? And what was happening? What was the other reason why Jarasandha was personally involved? Do you remember? No. What he's telling? His daughter, Kamsa's two wives, were the two daughters of Jarasandha. Right? And so when they became widows at a very young age, they had no progeny, they had no children. And so they went to the house of their father, went back to the house of the father, and Jarasandha was so upset with their pitiable condition. Then he made up this thing. Like even Hiranyakashipu, when he was attacking his own son, killing his own son, he's like, I don't want to, but he's forcing me. He's acting, he's like, this child is forcing me to kill him. I don't want to. He's acting in such a way that is causing so much disturbance to the society, but I have to protect my kingdom. I'm forced to. That is sort of the nature of how people think when they act irrationally. So then the question becomes, how should we act and what should we do? Right? I'll actually read the next sloka in the Bhagavad. I'll just read the translation because Prabhupada talks about a few interesting things over there sort of related to this. The next sloka translation is, since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons. Right? Prabhupada says the subtle forms of material activities are finer than grosser methods of material manipulation. Such subtle forms of material activities are effective through purification of sound. The same method is adopted here by chanting hymns to act as nuclear weapons. So we see here that Ashwatthama is being called, he knew how to say mantras, and just by applying mantras, he knew how to invoke a nuclear weapon. Imagine, how much of effort and energy and time it takes to create a nuclear weapon. It's like multi-year, even if you know how to do, it's a multi-year project. And thousands of people are involved, in creating it. They have to create heavy water first, then they have to take, enrich usually plutonium, uranium into plutonium, and then create that, and then create, all these things, and they have to take heavy water. So much complicated thing just to create, and then also you test in small doses to understand whether you know the technology or not. Because it's not like one doesn't work, we'll use one more. You don't get too much chance with nuclear weapons, right? But here, with very subtle weapons. He was not qualified, but he was called Brahma Bandhu. He was called the relative of a Brahmana. Because he did not have the qualities of the Brahmana. That's another important part of this sloka here, this purport here. It's called a Brahma Bandhu. So, the Vedic system of varnas and ashramas is a very scientific system, which is purely based on a person's qualities and his activities, not on birth. Birth was not even a criteria. Obviously, you all know that, like Prabhupada used to say, the son of a High Court judge has a good chance of becoming a High Court judge. Right? Why is that? Why do you think the son of a High Court judge has a good chance of becoming a High Court?
Because we have seen his father very closely and how he takes the decision.
Yeah, he's seen his father closely, and then that itself becomes inspiration. First thing that inspiration created, is a desire created. Oh yeah, my dad is in a good position. When he walks into the room, everybody stands up. Right? And then that's inspiring for people. Okay, then he gets inspired to be a judge. And then he's got a mentor right there. Right? You mentor them to see and to learn and to know at every stage. And also, he obviously has the connections and these things to help. Right? Oh, so you're interested. After all, you're my son. I'll teach you. I'll say, oh, you need to go to these schools. Go do this. And this is how we should do. This is what really matters. Because all of these things are very subtle things. Very similarly, the people born in a particular family tend to develop those qualities. Right? A person born in a divorced family, hopefully, he'll get inspired. He or she will get inspired and want to become a devotee. Similarly to Brahman or a Kshatriya. And so here, there was this Ashwatthama was born there, but he also learned a few things, but he didn't have the right consciousness to learn everything. Right? His lower modes, he was pulled by his lower modes, and he acted in this way that is not befitting a Brahmana. That's why it's called a Brahma Bandhu over here. Right? And then in the next Prabhupada talks about how the subtler forms of material activities are finer than the grosser methods. See, if people think, we are so advanced in this world now, right? Never was there so much of technology and this and that. We have created this, we have created aeroplanes, we have created computers, we have created phones and all these things. Nothing existed before. That's the standard story, right? Everybody says we are the pinnacle of civilization, right? When somebody is sitting in a higher planetary system, and then they're laughing at this pinnacle of civilization. So many pinnacles came, so many pinnacles went, right? This is just a blurb in this, and it's not that in the Vedic system, people didn't have all this technology and all these things. They had subtle. They're very subtle. They use only subtle laws, because the subtle law is the least impactful way of getting what you want, right? In the Vedic system, the Kshatriyas, what is the purpose? Kshatriya means he used to defend, right? They would create weapons out of mantras, and they were very directed, very concentrated, and the battles would be fought on very principled grounds in a far off place, and there was no collateral damage. You think about today, almost all the wars being fought in the world today are fought in the midst of civilians, using civilians as shields. Everywhere you see this, nobody wants to fight a normal battle anymore. Everybody wants to fight guerrilla warfare in the midst of civilians. the Vaishyas in the olden days, they knew how to extract wealth from the earth without harming the earth. Right? It is said that when the world is pious and everybody is acting nicely, the earth itself produces what you want. It is actually said in the Satya Yuga, the earth produced everything in such abundant quality. Like, there were always fruits growing everywhere, there were always grains everywhere, there was everything. There were cows were giving milk by themselves. You didn't have to do agriculture. You didn't have to go and, rear animals and all that. Literally, nobody did those things in Satya Yuga. That is why people would just go in the forest and meditate. Because the food and everything was being produced by the ground. In fact, it is said that the earth produces all these jewels and gold and everything in abundant quantity. If people are pious, in this whole world, we run after this gold. Some few hundred or a few thousand tons of gold has ever been produced. Like, what, just imagine if Mother Earth decided to create, take one mountain, this mountain is going to be gold tomorrow. Finished, all the value of gold will just plummet. It will become like, it is said in India there used to be so much gold. It is said even in recent past, a few 100,000 years ago, there was what's that southern king?
Vijayanagara Samrajya.
Vijayanagara Samrajya. What is the king's name? Krishna Dasa. Yeah, Krishna Dasa is actually historians that talk about how jewels and diamonds were actually being sold in the marketplace. How much diamonds? Here, give me this much grain and here diamonds. That's the kind of opulence the world can produce when you do that, right? And even the Shudras, it is said that they would have their access to technology and craftsmanship. In fact, there are many places in the Bhagavatam and the Puranas it explained about how we talk about robots and all that, right? There were robots created, in those days. They were just very human-like, and they would, do work for you. Right? And then there's the subtle laws of doing it. The Shudras had a methodology of doing that, and building very opulent buildings and this, and finally, this is all we want. Producing fine cloth and all that. So, you see here that Ashwatthama acted in a very responsible way when he felt threatened, and we should contemplate on that and try to develop higher modes and be, in Shuddha Sattva, so that we do not feel the need to defend, blame, and attack others, or the need to defend ourselves. Right? Forget, blaming and attacking others. So, when we don't defend ourselves, Krishna will defend us, and that is the highest consciousness. Okay. We'll stop here. Anybody has any quick questions or comments? Yes.
At the same time, we can relate Ashwatthama with the North Korean chief, Kim Il-jung.
Yes.
Possessing the nuclear weapon, threatening.
Exactly. Now, not just now. See, this whole world with all its sophistication and everything, right? Finally, if you boil down to everything. That's why when Prabhupada says that this middle world is nothing but eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, right? In essence, it is just these things in very, very different flavors. The world, was always had these things in different formats. The formats have changed, the sophistication of things have changed, but finally, all said and done, it boils down to that. People, if you think about all their sophisticated activities, what are they finally doing? You have to eat. In fact, if you think about it, sometimes you should sit down and contemplate on these things. See, eating is a very important act, even for devotees, right? We also know that. Right? It's 3 times a day you have to do. Otherwise you will feel hunger. This body is designed to create very deep reactions of hunger, pangs of hunger and all. Actually in higher planetary systems, even those pangs of hunger don't exist. You eat because you want to just enjoy something. You don't want to enjoy something, you don't eat. But in this, the middle planetary system, we are very much impacted by that. So we have to eat. 3 times every day to eat. And you know, that just that eating, people make it so much this thing. You know how much people spend. The richer you get, the more this thing you get. Right? Half this, you know, what they do, they'll travel and they'll eat. Right? Half their money is spent in what? In trying to find newer and newer ways of gratifying the time. And they'll spend ridiculous amounts of money and this thing and energy and time spent on that. You know, different ways of doing it. Same thing with, you know, then sleeping, right? For all the suffering, devotees think about it, eating, you know, for all this, we actually have very nice quality of food. If you think about it, food that is nourishing both to the body and the soul. Right? I mean, prasadam is like so nourishing. It may be simple, it may be simple. It not just feeds the body, it just purifies the mind, the subtle body, and it enlivens the soul. From inside, there is a satisfaction. Right? And then sleeping. You know, you see devotees chanting back comes, you know, immediately sleep comes. And bhavatam that comes immediately. You know, nobody sleeps as peacefully as devotees sleep. Truly, you know, when you go reflect on that, you know, there is a significant portion of this world that just can't sleep. They are so rich, they are so powerful, this thing, but the struggle to sleep, as basic thing as sleep. And we ourselves, like, we experience, you know, when we are so materially caught up, especially in the modes of passion and ignorance, you know, people are lazy, but they don't sleep. Have you noticed that? They lie on the bed, you know, they'll, you know, waste so much time, you know, watching TV and this and that, and, you know, play video games and this. They'll just lie down, but they can't sleep. They really can't get sleep. Very disturbed sleep for a few minutes and a few hours they'll have. So then finally defending also. So all these things, if you see, they're all the same formats, in like, you know, different formats and doing all the same things. The Vedic life of living was of a higher consciousness. Because ultimately everything is in consciousness. The experience of happiness. We are all doing all this for happiness. And the experience of happiness is in the consciousness level. And you know, we can do it in a more sophisticated way. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srimad Prabhupada ki, Bol Premanande.